So I've been thinking a lot lately about this bolt. There's really nothing special about it. Yeah, it came into my life recently. I've been fixing up this old sailboat, and this is one of several boats that holds down the binnacle in the cockpit. And while I was extracting it, the thing broke, and so I've been thinking about how to replace it and what to do with it. But in any event, it occurred to me that it might be a useful object for me to use to talk with you a little bit about the ways in which describing something is a way to know that thing. Now, there are many ways to describe something. You can do it just by touching the thing. You can take photographs, which describe an image. You can draw an object. You can even narrate it, just like I am. These acts of forced close attention can be documentary, but they are also always revelatory in that the process of describing itself generates new knowledge about an object. Consider, for instance, hand washing a car. You can go wash a car that looks brand new, but in the process of working over every bit and part and scrubbing and wiping and rinsing, I guarantee you'll find a bunch of little dents and scrapes and flaws that you never saw before. Because describing something is a way of knowing it. Historians began to think hard about how and why to describe things really during the early 1980s. They had been inspired by anthropologists, especially Clifford Geertz, who popularized this notion of thick description. For Geertz, thick description was effectively a summing up of what he believed the work of anthropology is. An exhaustive effort to describe in rich detail all facets of human experience. Doing that, he argued, was really the only way to understand culture at the level necessary to, say, know the difference between a blink and a wink. This was a concept, the blink and wink dichotomy, that he borrowed from somebody named Gilbert Ryle. But Geertz really got the popularity for it, and we'll read from his The Interpretation of Cultures to get a sense for that argument. But to put it into terms for this course, doing Geertz-style thick description describes a method for understanding the ways that people think with things and not just about them. Now, there's been a lot of arguing since Geertz by anthropologists and historians and lots of other people about the pros and cons of thick description as an investigatory method. Some argue it leaves way too much to the researcher's interpretation. And some say that it just generates lots of fluffy, descriptive writing. But one way or the other, what's clear is that thick description had a massive impact on material culture studies, and as we'll learn in this module's readings, was largely responsible for setting a decades-long methodological precedent. Before Geertz, people who studied objects were really largely content to just measure them and diagram them and rank them on a scale of cultural value from high to low. But after Geertz, folks generally realized that doing object study required attentiveness to a much broader array of value systems, including those value systems imposed on the objects by the researchers themselves. So this is all to say that the act of describing something, in the end, is really an act of knowing. Describing can reveal aspects of an object that you may never have noticed otherwise. So take, for instance, this bolt. You look at it, and it looks like any other bolt that you may see in the world, but describe it and you learn amazing things. let me take the nut from this aluminum bolt off the boat and weigh it so that we can compare it with a steel bolt. And what happens is pretty remarkable. You would never know to just look at this bolt how light it really is. But if you weigh it, you learn. If you feel it, you learn. And you discover that there's something very special about this metal. Describing something forces you to engage with words and values and metrics outside your usual system of knowing. So simple measurement, for instance, familiarizes us with the language of science, which creates opportunities for historians instantly to broaden their purview. And doing thing description also forces us to exercise writing skills and narrative technique that strengthens all aspects of our writing. So, if you want to understand a thing and you want to expand your skills as a historian, a good way to start is simply by describing it.